Welcome to The Next Level, conversations that propel business. The next hour is all about the entrepreneur, why they start businesses, how they make their businesses grow, how they overcome failures and achieve success. Your hosts are Bob Gibbons, founder of Riata Commercial Realty, a commercial real estate advisory and tenant advocacy firm, and Stephen Nooner, founder and CEO of Alkali, a company with a unique process that helps businesses more effectively buy and manage their insurance programs. Bob and Stephen will ask probing questions to find impactful solutions that will help take your business to the next level. And now, here's Bob Gibbons and Stephen Nooner.
Welcome to The Next Level, conversations that propel business. I'm your host, Stephen Nooner.
And this is Bob Gibbons, and we are here with another great guest today, and it is Carmen Smith. And Carmen is the founder of NTD Mechanical, and you can find them online at ntdmechanical.com. And Stephen, do you know what mechanical means? No. All right, good.
Yeah.
So Stephen has a lot to learn today.
Mechanical?
So mechanical is like big HVAC systems for like large office buildings, warehouses, all kinds of stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to this. I've done a lot of work with mechanical companies in the past, but not NTD, sadly. So we're looking forward to learning about this. And of course, Carmen Smith, obviously she's a woman, and so a woman in this business is a bit unusual too. So I'm really anxious to hear more about that and how that happened and all the rest. So welcome, Carmen. We're excited to have you here today.
And you can find, welcome, and you can find NTD Mechanical at ntdmechanical.com.
And if you've been paying attention, you'd have noticed I already said that.
You already said that?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to correct myself and correct you in a circle.
Well, thank you for having me.
Welcome.
I'm excited to be here.
Cool. So, Stephen, you got a quote for us?
Yeah. Actually, Carmen has a quote, and this is rare, but I'm actually going to ask you to pronounce it.
I knew you were going to do that. Okay, so I have to admit, I cannot pronounce that. I have been saying for years, knowledge is power, and I truly believe it. And so I had to look it up to see if, who said it first.
Sure.
And according to Google, Sir Francis Bacon, because everybody loves bacon, he's the guy who said it, so he's got two things going for him. But I can't pronounce that in Latin. I asked my boyfriend to do it. He couldn't do it either.
I was hoping you would at least try.
No, I do not have an ear for language, sadly. How about you?
So why is knowledge is power? Why is that so meaningful to you?
Well, my first company, I bought it when I was 17. And
Wow.
I know, and I made every mistake that I could make kind of the hard way. And I lived in fear for a while because I was financially unstable and I didn't know what was going on. I thought that I had the skill set that I needed to, pay the bills and write the checks and keep the employees happy and things like that. And I really didn't. And so I kind of stuck my head in the sand, and I was just trying to have some peace in my life and not worry about it all the time. And that doesn't work. Knowledge is power, and you have to face that fear. You have to pull your head out of the sand and stop running from it and look at what you're doing. And then turns out it wasn't as bad as I thought. But I was almost like just, locked up and just with fear and unable to make decisions.
Yeah.
And I was a very young woman when I first had a very meaningful relationship with that statement, knowledge is power.
I've done a blog post about knowledge is power, and in fact, I even have a commercial on this station using that term, knowledge is power. But
Next one's going to be done in Latin, though, right?
Exactly.
But more people
can
will
you
listen.
pronounce that? Can you do it?
I bet I could.
Oh, good.
Not. But it's ipsa scientia potestas est.
Very
You
good.
show off.
Yeah, no, that
Boy,
wasn't showing off. I'm sure
was pretty
there's some professor somewhere cringing right now. But the way I look at this is that in a negotiation, there's always one party that tends to have more knowledge than the other about that one issue. Mm-hmm. So in Stephen's case, he's an expert in insurance. So if he's talking to me about insurance, I'm at a huge disadvantage. And if I'm talking to him about real estate, he's at a big disadvantage. Obviously with you, we're at a disadvantage to anything dealing with air conditioning. Mm-hmm. So any party that has a lack of knowledge when the other party has more knowledge is going to be at a disadvantage in that. And so how do you balance that? How do you get the knowledge you need? And, one is you can study up on it and learn it, but you can't do that with every possible subject.
Yeah.
So then you rely on experts. I'm going to rely on you for mechanical. I'm going to rely on Stephen for insurance. You got to rely on experts as a
Absolutely.
result.
I agree.
Yeah, that was I was like, where are you going with this? But that to me, that's what a partnership looks like, is when you can get work together mutually to deploy those for the mutual benefit of everyone. The thing that came to my mind is when you were talking about it, because you had the quote, but then when you explained the backstory, it made me think of like the 12-stepper, all meaningful progress begins by telling the truth, or I'm sure I'm butchering that, but it is really powerful to just acknowledge what's there and what isn't, and knowing
Right.
where that's at. And then you
Yeah.
talked about getting, not being overly stressed in your life or whatever, and to try to get that peace. Well, a lot of peace comes from just having clarity.
Absolutely, right. And if you can't be honest with yourself, and I remember the day that I was standing there, and the big scary monster in the room was the IRS, because I wasn't making my employee contribution payments for the taxes. And I mean,
Wow.
that's
That's an ugly one.
That is, really ugly. And I didn't go to college. So straight out of high school, I have some skills. I've done some accounting work, that sort of thing. And I graduated from high school when I was 17, because I started in Florida, and there you start a year younger. I was one of the youngest people in my class. And so I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I'm actually going to blow this to the point where I don't know that I'm gonna survive. But it came with just figuring out, okay, what is the disparity? How much do I owe? How am I going to try to make these arrangements with the IRS? And this was back in the 80s when they really weren't all that friendly.
Oh, they are now?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
news.
No, they are. Yeah, they're friendly. They're so friendly. I don't know. I don't want to see them.
Don't want to test
But
it.
I did. I ended up paying the IRS from that little company that I had, and I had it for almost 2 years. For almost 2 years myself after the fact.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
What kind of business was it?
It was called the Sheet Metal Shop.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a little mom and pop stomp shop is what we call it. And we made plenums and drain pans and transitions and things like that for supply houses. So we sold fabricated metal products that serve the HVAC and plumbing industry to big supply houses. And so I just had a couple of employees, and I had a couple pieces of machinery, and I bought it from a guy who just didn't want it anymore. And so my terms, it was so funny. I paid him $500 a month for like 10 months. Yeah, and I took over the notes on the equipment.
Oh,
and
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was going to say, at 17, how did you even have the money to buy anything?
Well, I really didn't. I mean, I think I made $8-10 an hour because I had another full-time job working as an accounting, type position for a landscaping company. So I was doing both things, and doing neither very well. And I had this business with my boyfriend. It's just so not impressive. This is not impressive. But like so many small beginnings, they're just authentic. It's just people out there starting a business and doing what they know how to do.
But why did you, if you already had a full-time job, what made you think to go buy another company?
Well, that was really his skill. He was a true sheet metal mechanic layout man. And
Boyfriend?
Yes,
Okay.
boyfriend, yes. And he was very talented. There's not many of those guys left anymore.
Sadly.
Yeah, sadly. He could make you out of sheet metal with a ruler and a pair of snips. I mean, it was amazing. And we had this opportunity, and I wanted to support him. I wanted to be a good girlfriend, and it could be lucrative. And we ended up selling that company. I did. I sold that company and paid the IRS for 2 years, but learned so much.
So you didn't really make money off of it, but you
Yeah.
What a
Learned.
huge education, right?
It was a huge education.
probably far more than you would have if you went to college and got an MBA as well.
Yeah, although, boy, I think that'd be nice. But the idea of more school after high school just totally turned me off. I did not want to go to school. And
Just
so
wasn't
I
your thing.
didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did you do? I mean, after that, what did you just
Yeah. So I'm originally I was born in Wisconsin, spent a huge part of my childhood in Florida, and then moved back to Wisconsin. My mom got remarried, and he adopted me. And I have siblings that are twin sisters, 13 years younger than me, and a brother that's 11 years younger.
Oh, wow.
So if you ask me why I don't have any children, I think I do. But so after that experience with the sheet metal shop, I was just really kind of defeated and heartbroken, and I missed my family very much. This was in Texas. And I ended up moving back to Wisconsin to try to just go to community college, put your head down, try again. And I couldn't do it.
Tried to be normal for a while.
I tried to be normal, and I couldn't.
Weird is cool.
Exactly. Should have moved to Austin.
Right? Yeah. I probably couldn't afford Austin.
So how long did school last?
Oh, not long. Not math is my Achilles heel. I'm telling you. Algebra? Why? Why do we need algebra? I hate algebra. I couldn't do it. I couldn't hang, and it was cold again, and so I left. And came back to Texas, and that's really, I took a job again in an accounting role for a manufacturing company, and I wasn't very happy there for the first time ever, and I know I was still a very young woman, but I really didn't have a very good guy boss. He was kind of a lunatic. And then I had an opportunity, I just stopped into this company. They're a big mechanical contracting company in town. Now you know what mechanical means, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And they had a sheet metal shop, and I needed a piece of sheet metal because a girlfriend of mine needed a piece of metal. And so I stopped in in the parking lot, and I said, "Hey guys," I said, "can I just have a piece of scrap?" I said, "I just need like a 20 by 20, broke at a 45 and hem the edges." And they're looking at me like, "What? How do you know that?" And I said, "Come on, it's scrap. It's laying on the floor." I said, "Just grab like a piece of 20 gauge or something, or it's fine, 22 gauge. And so they go in and they get their boss, and they're like, "Hey, there's some girl out here who says she wants some sheet
Nutty
metal."
blonde is.
Yeah. And he comes out and he says, how do you even know what you're talking about? And that started the coolest relationship. I ended up going to work for them, and we turned their sheet metal shop into a profit center because they had this big fancy shop. I walked in and I was like, "Wow, look at that. This is awesome." They had plasma tables and liner sections and, 20 guys working in there, pumping out this great product. It was a big success. It was really a lot of fun.
That sounds awesome. All right, we're going to take a break. You're listening to The Next Level on 1190 AM.
Stick around.
Hi, this is Bob Gibbons with Riata Commercial Realty. If your office lease is going to be expiring in the next year or two, the one thing I would tell you definitely do not want to do is exercise a renewal option. Now, that may sound a little nuts. When you negotiate for that renewal option, why wouldn't you actually want to use it? Well, the reason is because while you want to have one as a reservation for your space so the landlord can't lease the space out from under you, that option may not actually work the way you want it to now. It may have made sense 5 years ago, but it doesn't today. The only thing that changes when you exercise a renewal option are the expiration date and the rent. But you may want to do other things like have another option to renew, have an option to terminate or expand. You may want to be able to expand now or have a new base year for your operating expenses. There's all kinds of things that need to be considered. So we recommend that you renegotiate, not renew. For more information, contact me, Bob Gibbons, at texastenantrep.com. That's texastenantrep.com.
We're back with The Next Level. We're here with Carmen Smith, ntdmechanical.com.
So, Carmen, before we took the break, you were telling us about how you came back to Texas and you were looking for some sheet metal for a girlfriend.
Yeah.
What in the world did your girlfriend need sheet metal for?
She was one of those artsy girls, and she would do needlepoint. And the pattern, she wanted to be able to hold the pattern up on this piece of metal so that she didn't have to have it laying flat, or it was something very rudimentary. And so I got her the piece of metal, and it got me a job. So that was cool.
Wow. Yeah, so you're throwing around all the buzzwords, and they can't figure out why this young woman knows all these buzzwords, and you get the job. So tell us, what was the job that they gave you? You turned around their sheet metal shop, but what did you do?
Oh, they had a very thriving business, but they were only fabricating products for themselves. And so they had peaks and valleys in their production. And what they needed to be able to do is level out that production so that they could be more profitable all the time. And they hired me to do that. So I had my ledgers, with my products that I sold and how much I thought it cost. And I had a client base that I thought I could sell to. And
How did you have that client base?
Well, I had sold to them previously through the other
shop.
Yeah, when I had my.
So how much time
shop.
had passed between when you sold your first shop and joined the second one?
Probably less than a year.
Okay, so those were still fresh relationships.
Yeah, maybe. Well, no, I guess it was longer than that. Sorry, I'm so bad at timelines.
And algebra.
It was several years. Yeah, and algebra. That's exactly right. Anyway, so I had a good idea about how this could be done, and I remember the owner asked me. He said, "Well, how much money do you want to make?" And I knew how much money I made now, and I wanted a raise, and so I did, again, some rudimentary math, and I threw out a number, and he said, "Done," and I said, "Oh man, golly, I should ask for more." But I really grew up there. I grew up there. They God bless them. They put up with me, and they taught me so much. And I was there with them for about 8 years, and it was a huge success. Yep. And then I went to work for another big company in town, and they went through an international or national and international buy-up, where one of those big corporations decides to go around and buy everybody up. Met amazing people there. I was there for a couple years. Again, learned some skills that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And it really gave me a great platform to be able to start Ductworks, NTD Mechanical, when I did back in 2001. That was when the recession hit and nobody had any work. And my male counterparts who were doing the same job that I was doing for this big company, they kept getting laid off. And I'm like, well, heck, if they're getting laid off, I probably don't stand much of a chance. But I did. I decided, well, I'm just going to start my own company because I won't lay myself off. And
so you did that before you got laid off?
I
You were
did.
thinking you were going to get laid off?
did,
So that
yeah.
was your reason to start a company?
I went to my boss and I said, you know what? I said, this ship is going down. We all know it. And they did. They had to declare bankruptcy, and it was sad. A lot of people went through a lot of pain on that thing.
Bummer.
And again, it taught me a lot because I had run a small business. I understood liens and bonding and lien waivers and demand notices and all that kind of thing. So I moved out of sales in that timeline, and then I said to my boss, I said, you need to put me in accounting and let me help you shut this thing down. And I told him, I said, I've got some existing clients that are nationwide that still have need for a product. And so I'm going to quit this. I'm kind of, zooming through the timelines here. And I'm going to start my own company. And he said, really? He said, well, can you do both? Can you help me keep closing this thing down and then start your own company at the same time? And I said, well, yeah, I think I can, because I can just work on the nights and weekends. So that made it easy too, way back in the very early beginning days, because I didn't have to let go of my full-time job before I could start.
So you had some income.
Company. Yeah, a little bit. It was maybe 6 months. So I got a chance to get over the fear.
Is there, so when you start NTD Mechanical, I would think that there's still a significant cost to do that. You have to have a place to do it, a lease, if you will. You have to have equipment, some maybe employees perhaps. I mean, how did you figure that out?
NTD Mechanical has become what it is over the last 18 years. When I started, it was a company called Ductworks. And what I did is I sold fabricated metal products again to end user customers across the nation. And then we morphed into being an actual full-blown mechanical contractor doing all of the work as well. So in the beginning, I was a supplier, but that was, like I said, 18 years ago. And,
wow.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, I would even then, I would think that it would still have taken a pretty sizable capital infusion,
didn't.
but no.
No. Mm-mm. And plus, boy, I didn't want to be in debt again. That's for sure.
Yeah, keep that IRS off your back.
Right. So I worked out of my home. I bought the computer software and the estimating programs that I needed. I bought the digitizer board. I had relationships, went out to suppliers that I'd been doing work with all these years. And one of them is, they're a real they're a big company in our industry. And I went to him because I needed to be able to buy from him, and I wanted him to grant me credit. And I told him what I was going to do, and he said, well, I don't even know that I support that. And I said, why? And he said, well, I don't know that I support women in construction in general.
Oh, wow. He just came out and said
He
it?
did. He just came out and said it. But if you know me, you
What an
can tell me
idiot.
whatever. Tell me what you think. It's all right. I'm certainly going to do the same. But in the end, he did grant me credit. He was one of the first people to do it. I still have a great account with them today. We're all friends. Construction is just such a fun industry. It really is. I think that the sense of family that you have with the people that you work with I think it's more than what you would have in a different type of industry.
So when this guy made this comment about you being
Yeah.
a woman, was that the first time you'd experienced that kind of a attitude, or had you experienced that previously in your other jobs?
It's very rare. It really is. You would think that there would be more of it, but I don't experience it. Yeah, I've had just a handful of people say, now maybe they're saying things, and I don't hear it. A couple years ago, we were at a golf tournament, and someone made a disparaging comment. And boy, I actually didn't even hear what he said, and it wasn't that awful. I mean, if I think I understand what he said, but the men around me were so furious with him. They called his boss.
Oh.
They made him apologize to me.
Wow.
I was like, yeah, darn you. That's right. Shame on you. But I mean, honestly, I've been doing this my whole life, and I can count on one hand the number of times that it has been maybe unfriendly for women.
It's
So-
encouraging.
Do you
Yeah.
feel like it's an excuse that people will use? I mean, if there's another woman in construction and she lets that get in her way,
Oh, I see.
or if I do because I belong
Yeah.
to whatever group
Yeah.
that I feel is
Perhaps.
discriminated.
I do. I mean, I have very thick skin, but I was kind of born that way anyway. And, you gather the knowledge, you do the work, you don't make excuses for it. And I haven't been stopped or slowed down, really.
Well, and to that guy's credit, even though he said it, he still gave you the credit.
That's right. He sure did.
So I'd rather have somebody
That's
say
right.
it and
Yeah.
still do business with
Yeah,
me than
That's right. And I'd rather
make
have
me
a
feel good.
conversation about it, which is what we did. That was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was one of the big mistakes you made early on in your career as a businesswoman?
Oh my goodness. Well, aside from not paying the IRS, that's probably the biggest one. But when I had the sheet metal shop when I was a young person, I had to keep things going, and cash is king, and I didn't have any cash, and I needed to buy some metal, and I knew I was going to be getting a check from this customer, and so I wrote a check to my metal supplier, and it was maybe less than $3,000, but it was up there, and the check bounced, and I knew it was going to bounce, and the metal supplier called me, and he said, "Carmen, your check bounced," and I said, "I know, I'm so sorry." And you got to remember, this is back in the day. This is in the 80s. This is before when things happened practically seamlessly.
Yeah.
And I said, if you could just hold on to that for me for just a couple days, I said, I'm going to make it good. And he said, no, I'm going to deposit it now. And I said, no, don't do that. It's not going to work. It won't go through. I said, just give me a couple days. He said, Carmen, I'm telling you, I'm going to do it now. And I was so naive. I didn't understand what he was telling me. And so he did, and it bounced again. Well, that's a felony.
Oh.
Now you've committed bank fraud. And I'm like, oh, no. And it was a holiday weekend, and this same boyfriend that I had, we got the letter in the mail from the district attorney's office saying that I had 10 days to make good on the check, or they were going to come and arrest me.
Oh my.
Well, he didn't tell me because he didn't want me to have a bad weekend. So I lost like 4 days, and then he showed me the letter on Monday, and I was like, oh my God, I've never been arrested. I've still never been arrested, thank God. I'm really proud of that. Not that lots of people have been arrested, but I haven't. And so I saw this letter, and I was the stress level was through the roof. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I don't have this money. And so I called my mom, and I told you I'm from the Midwest. Well, Midwest values, you don't borrow your way out of trouble. You did this, young lady. You're going to have to figure it out. And she didn't lend me the money. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to go to jail. And so the boyfriend, he called a friend and he said, Carmen's in trouble. We got to help her. And, this friend, he went out and he took out a loan for me. He's also an entrepreneur. He took out a loan for me and he came over and he handed me the money. And he said, I know that you would do it for me if you could. We are still friends today.
I guess.
And
Wow.
he still has that line of credit today. He laughs about it. He goes, "It's the best line of credit I've got." He said the return on that money is excellent. He said they want me to close it, and I won't do it.
That's amazing. So, so
Yeah.
you got to pay that guy off, and
I did.
was he doing this just to teach you a lesson, basically?
He did. Yeah, he was. He was.
Wow.
He
Did
was
you ever
going to teach me a lesson.
Did you thank him for that lesson?
I didn't. I did not.
All right. On that note, we're going to go to break and let the radio station pay a few bills. So we'll be back in a minute on 1190 AM.
Stick around.
Hi, my name is Fern, and I've been an empowered team member at Alkali for over 5 years. I first learned about Alkali through an online job board and was intrigued to learn that Alkali was a Dave Ramsey endorsed local provider. But what captivated me was Alkali's mission statement, which is closely aligned with my own beliefs. So what's kept me at Alkali for over 5 years? First, Alkali's 5 core values match my own. Second, I've been empowered to use my unique abilities to impact our community, our clients, and Alkali. If you'd like to learn more about becoming an empowered Alkali team member, visit our website, alkaliservices.com. That's ALKALI services.com.
Welcome back to The Next Level. We're here with Carmen Smith of NTD Mechanical, and you can find out more at ntdmechanical.com.
So, Carmen, for us neophytes learning what mechanical means, I'm just kind of curious, like, what are the challenges? What are the biggest challenges you have in operating a business like yours?
I would say that the biggest challenges are, first of all, the ability to hire skilled tradespeople. There's a real shortage of skilled trades folks. People are not entering skilled trades like they did 30, 40, 50 years ago. And I don't know how we're going to attract the talent, how we're going to convince them that it's a great career opportunity, because it is hard. It's difficult, it's dirty, it's hot, and the respect level could be better all the way around. We definitely respect our employees, and we demand respect from our customers and general contractors for our employees as well. But it's going to become, or it is already, really a national problem.
Yeah.
Trying to find those people.
Is that on all trades?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And I mean, what do you think? I mean, just the fact that we just have worshipped at the altar of college as a country so much that, like, oh, you got to go to college.
Truly.
I mean,
yes.
is that what you think's causing it the most? Or?
Yes. Yeah. There's been a real shift. Mike Rowe, I don't know if anybody follows Mike Rowe, but he does some really good work trying to educate people about how great skilled trades can be. I mean, these are lucrative careers.
They really
you
are.
don't have to go to a 4-year degree, typical college. You can, as a helper, make almost $50,000 a year.
It's incredible, right?
It is.
Or you can go to private college, spend $60,000 a year, and come out with a sociology degree, and
Right.
then what?
Right.
Be a
Yeah.
checker
Yeah.
for $10 an hour?
Yeah.
Entry-level IT guys are barely getting paid more than that. I mean, if you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, they're really the value prop. We actually had a guest in who has a for-profit college, but it's a trade school, and he was talking about how so many people go to the college, the traditional college, and there's a return on investment. In fact, I think he said there was a law that was passed that they have to report some sort of return on investment if you're a for-profit college, but the not-for-profit colleges, the state universities, the private universities, don't have to report that. And so there's no real conversation going on about what is the return on investment for an education.
Right.
But in your case, I mean, they're getting paid while they're learning in most cases,
Absolutely,
and
yes.
then they make more after they,
Yep.
become full licensed or whatever it is in each trade.
Yeah.
It's such a broken attitude too, because I mean, we all have unique abilities, different skills. I mean, it's just I'm worried what's going to happen with the shortage. I mean,
I'm glad to hear that because we all should be worried about it. The political scene is very much playing into the skilled trades that are available today. Without going down that rabbit hole, but it is a huge problem, and it's a problem nationwide. Some people say, well, maybe unions are the answer. I think maybe some unions were the answer years ago, and they still are to some degree, which is great. You know, I grew up, again, in the Midwest. My dad was in the union. I've seen kind of both sides of it. There are some wonderful agencies here in town, like Construction Education Foundation, that are working with the local high schools. That's another thing that we did is we took trades out of high school. Why did we do that?
I took metal shop, and I mean, like,
I took
I love those classes.
automech.
Yeah, it's sometimes the only way that these kids even get exposed to something like that, other than, you know, these grassroots efforts that are kind of going on around the country. So I don't have the answers, and I don't know what I can even do in particular, except maybe coming on shows like this and talking to people about it, because it's definitely getting worse.
So if somebody
day.
wanted to get into, let's say, the mechanical industry with you, how do they go about that? I just graduated from high school.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to college, but I want to be a tradesman. Where do I go?
Well, you mentioned trade schools. There are some good trade schools. There's one down, in Duncanville? Is that where it is?
I'm not
There's
sure.
a couple, anyway, that would teach basic, welding skills, that sort of thing. Construction Education Foundation is a great way to reach out. Go to my website. Look me up. Come on in. We'll talk to you and give you safety training and get you started, because it's so satisfying. I mean, even to me, I drive around town and go, I worked on that, I worked on that, I worked on that. It's really cool.
See the output of your work.
Yeah.
Now,
So-
sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to follow up. So that, I mean, obviously, it's one of the big challenges. I mean, is that the key one, or what are some of the other challenges you guys are facing?
Well, it's funny. Right now it's summertime and school's out, and we do a tremendous amount of schools, and we love doing schools. We do, because we're woman-owned. There's a certain minority percentage that needs to be met when working with public funds. So the bond programs, right? They need to hire minority, women-owned, that sort of thing, companies to match a certain percent. And so right now, I think we're doing 13 schools this summer. And logistically, trying to get the equipment either in from Mexico or down from Oklahoma, scheduling the cranes, getting the refrigerant recovered. Oh crap, we forgot to tell you. Actually, we're going to have people in the auditorium this weekend, so we need air conditioning. We basically have like 12 weeks to completely revamp the air conditioning system. And we work all over the place. We're in Garland, we're in Arlington, we're in Fort Worth, we're in Dallas. And we work in some neighborhoods that make it a little challenging as well.
Because things are going off the truck.
Yeah. Yeah.
That shouldn't be going off the truck.
Yeah, we definitely cannot leave equipment on the ground.
So whenever you, well, let me ask you it this way. Who's your ideal client then? Is it a school or is it something else?
Our ideal client is a general contractor who does large commercial projects. Yeah.
And so you're working in schools, office buildings.
Police stations, libraries, as well as private office buildings, things like that. But
Is most of it publicly owned
Mostly.
properties?
That's right.
And is that because it's the women-owned classification
Yeah,
helps you get that business from the primary general contractor?
it definitely does. It helps us, but we've also gotten really good at it. And these are complex projects. Your typical retail jobs, those are so simple. We call it two guys in a truck, truck slammers. One of the differences about air conditioning versus plumbing and electrical is plumbing and electrical, you have to have a license holder on every job. And even the helpers have to have journeyman's cards, for instance. Well, for air conditioning, you only need one license for the entire company. So the competition is huge.
And scary, it sounds like.
Well,
I mean, how do I, as a consumer, know
exactly.
that the people are really qualified?
Well, you don't.
That's comforting.
You can certainly, research them through the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. You can also go on the state of Texas website. I forget which one it is, the comptroller's office, I think, to see if they're a member in good standing
Yes.
with the state of Texas. The Deadbeat Dad movement affects license holders now. If you're not paying your child support, they'll yank your license.
Now, you guys
So-
started a new training program in your shop, didn't you?
We did.
Tell us
yeah.
about that.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. Because there aren't enough skilled tradespeople, and because wherever you come from, they might call you a lead man or they might call you a foreman at different companies, depending upon the size of the company. So what I mean by that is that if you are a very large mechanical contracting company and you're doing high-rise buildings downtown, if you're a duct installer, they might call you a foreman because all you do is install duct. Well, the projects that we do tend to be a little bit smaller, but they're also maybe a little more difficult. There's a lot more components to them. So we have to cross-train our guys. They have to know how to run refrigerant piping, condensate piping, set curbs, hang air handling units, do everything. And so we have an employee who is bilingual and who is fantastic. We're so lucky to have him. And he has stepped up and he is doing individual training, skill set training with each person on the job sites, at their level. So we're really taking a kind of expensive and long way around giving the employees what they need at their level, rather than we're hoping it's going to work. I don't know. We'll see.
How long
We're
has that
excited
been
about
going
it.
on? How long?
Well, we've been so darn busy that it's only been going on for a couple months.
Okay, so it's new.
Yeah, it is. It's new, but at least it's progress, right? You always got to just kind of keep moving,
Yeah,
keep going, figure it out.
call it the 80-20. If you can get it just kind of going,
Right.
you'll
for
you'll
sure.
figure out how to make it better once it's going.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So, what's one of the scariest risks that you've had to face in starting your company, growing it?
Probably it would be hiring key people when I don't really know if I can afford them or not. Like I hope I can afford it, and you have to just kind of go out there on a limb of faith that you're gonna go get the sales and it's all gonna work out.
That's a problem for a lot of businesses. I'm in that situation right now where
Yeah.
I'm getting a lot of business and it's more than I can handle, but
Mm-hmm.
is it enough to support another person?
Yeah.
And that's a really hard thing. And in your case, you have, on those kind of projects you're on, I would think that the receivable is a long way away from when you do the work.
You think?
Yeah, government contractors, what are
Oh,
they paying,
for
90
sure.
days or something like that?
Thank God it's not that bad. It's 45 to 60 days every month for sure. And then retainage. Do you guys know what retainage is?
Yeah.
Okay, retainage is about a year.
So retainage is the 10% that that a building owner will
Right.
hold to make sure that every
Working properly and all that.
Yeah.
working property and every little thing is done at the end.
Wow.
Right. Every little thing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So so you have a lot of pressures on the cash flow.
We do. Yeah. And again, being from the Midwest and learning all my lessons the hard way, when I started, I didn't want a line of credit. I didn't want, I didn't want to be in debt. I figured if I just kept my head down and kind of did my job, then everything would work out. But that's not always the best way to do it.
All right, we're going to take another break. We'll be right back after the break.
Stick around.
My name is Buck Jones. I'm the founder and CEO of Pegasus Technology Solutions, and I never listen to the Next Level Show with Bob and Steve, although maybe I'll start next week.
Welcome back to The Next Level, Conversations That Propel Business. We're here with Carmen Smith of NTD Mechanical. You can find them online at ntdmechanical.com.
Great job, Bob.
Always.
Always. So, Carmen, something that caught my interest right before we went to the break was you talked about learning lessons the hard way and how that really caused you to really say, like, I don't want to go into debt. I want to do this debt-free. But then you kind of alluded, it sounds like you're doing it differently. So I'm just kind of curious, what was that evolution and trigger point?
Yeah, so that probably started within the last 3 years. I had the opportunity to hire some really great key people and kind of went out on a limb and hired them, and they're doing amazing. And my employees inspire me every day. It's like I could get emotional about it seriously because they are such rock stars. They're so strong, and they all have their own idea of what they want their career to be. This isn't just my company. This is their career.
Right.
You know? And I respect that because I've always felt that way. I used to go to my boss and say, look, I don't like the way you're doing this. And he'd say, well, it's my company. And I'm like, yeah, but it's my money. This is my job too. And that's exactly how I treat my employees. And I want them to feel that way. And so they want to grow and they have a vision and we are going there. Well, that takes cash. So I was with the same bank, I'm just going to say it, for my entire life. They've had all of my banking relationships. And every time that I went and asked them for a loan, they turned me down. And then I would go somewhere else and I could get it. And now here I am. Now I need a line of credit. And I have bonding. And I went to my bank, and this was maybe almost 2 years ago now. And they turned me down. They not only did they turn me down, they didn't even come back and say, we won't give you that, but we'll give you this. I've been with them my whole life.
Wow.
Are you kidding me? So I was, it was humbling. I was upset. I'm still, you can hear it in my voice. I'm still upset. So I thought, you know what? Okay, knowledge is power, Carmen. Put your money where your mouth is. Go out and find some other relationships. And I've also, by the way, hired a couple coaches that I'm working with that are kind of helping keep me grounded a bit, right? Because it's hard to have all the answers every day yourself. Heck, I don't know. You know, you're getting stretched. You're having to do things you've never done before.
Bob does a good job at it, but for me, I need a lot of help.
So, so I remember my coach, her words resonated with me. She said, well, they might be a great bank, but they're not the great bank for you. She said, so go out and find the good bank that's going to be good for you. And so I went out and I compared the three, my bank and then these two other ones. And boy, you know what? I got what I wanted. They treat me well. They are doing everything that they can for me. We have a line of credit that is taking us through summer because it takes a lot of men, a lot of boots on the ground to go do the amount of work that we're doing right now. And that, you know, that's my job as the business owner. I have to do that for my employees. And knowledge is power. And putting your money where your mouth is and doing the right thing and not running from it, not hiding from it.
And your old bank, when you told them you were leaving,
you know what?
didn't understand, right?
I haven't done it yet.
Oh, you haven't?
I hope
Would you
they're
like now
listening.
announce it now?
Got a
I'm gonna
dollar
go
in that
in.
account over there.
I'm going to go in and close down those accounts.
Fred's Bank, you're
Yeah.
screwed.
They're a great bank. They really are. But boy, they're not a great bank for me. So a little piece of advice: find the people that are that are a good fit for your company, and go do business with them. Just because you've been where you're at, you know, forever doesn't mean that that's where you should stay.
So one other thing that stood out to me, Jim, we were just talking there, is you talked about coaching. So tell us about you know, what type of coaching you receive and what kind of support is that provided for you.
So I'm a person, even though I'm rather outgoing and I'm not shy at all. I'm such a worker. When I get to work, I don't even usually go to lunch. You know, I'm entrenched in the work, and there I am, and there I sit. And I usually don't get to work until after 9 because when I get there, I don't leave, you know. And so one of the things that I have to push myself to do is to get up out of the chair and to go visit customers and to go to my association meetings and to go, you know, communicate and be with other people in my industry. And by doing that, I was introduced to a lady who I hired as my coach. And she is so motivating. And you know what? She's affordable, too. I think I always had it in my mind that these coaches are so expensive.
What kind of coach is she?
She is a business and a personal coach. So she really
kind of a generalist overall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She handles both sides. She's been in corporate world, which is kind of interesting because she sees the other side, you know, and she just is so empowering to me. She wants me to stretch myself and to do things that I've never even considered doing, like this show, for instance. And it's just is very, very motivating.
So what was the first thing she did when she walked in the door?
She said to me, wow, she said, you have such a presence about you. She said, you need to have a marketing presence. And at the time, we didn't. We rebranded. You heard me mention Ductworks a couple times, but last January, we rebranded and became NTD Mechanical because it makes better sense for our company. Plus, the guys wanted something that sounded a little more manly.
And what does NTD stand for? Anything?
North Texas Ductworks.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah. So we did. We hired a marketing company. They are called Bold Entity, and they are fantastic. They've done us a lot of good in terms of employee recruitment and retention. I would recommend them to people.
So where do you market for a business like yours? Where are you marketing, or to whom?
You know, we would market to an office owner, for instance. We would market to anybody who owns a commercial building. We would the general contractors can go to our website and they can see all the public work projects that we've done, and it's substantial. We've done a lot. Our certificates for minority are on our website, and our hub participation certificate, for instance, our certificate of insurance. I mean, you can really kind of get an idea of the depth and the size of our company. It would let you as the consumer know that we know what we're doing.
Right. But I would only see all that if I knew to go to your website.
Right.
So how do you reach me to tell me I need to go to your website?
Well, that's what our marketing company does. We are on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. We're out there. And LinkedIn especially is a really great way for us to reach potential clients because all the crew people are out there.
Crew being commercial real estate women.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And BOMA, Building Owners and Managers
Association, yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And the general contractors, of course, are all out there. So yeah, it's a big world. Getting smaller every day.
Just in Dallas, it's a big world.
Yeah, right.
So what are the major threats or risks facing your industry?
Well, for sure, the shortage of skilled tradesmen, that just the knowledge base slowly dying and slipping away. For me, the respect. We've got to swing back around as a community, as a country, to respect the work that these men and women do. I don't care if you're assembling cars or digging ditches.
What about like legislation or laws or anything like that? Is that a factor in your?
Especially in Texas, yes, sir, it certainly is. So I'm a member of a group called ASA, which is American Subcontractors Association, and we work with the TCA, which is the Texas Construction Association, and they're down in Austin. And we try to go down and we try to educate the people in power about the challenges that face our industry, like retainage laws, for instance. Texas has the worst laws as it pertains to construction, if you are in construction, of any other state, literally, in the United States.
In what way? I mean, they're not. You don't have very many tools to.
Everything favors the banks and the owners. For instance, this has happened. If you are a private developer and you are going to build a building and you go out and you get financing for that, and you then hire everybody and you say, okay, go to work, and say one of your financiers pulls out and you've just lost half of your money, there is no obligation in the state of Texas for you to let anyone know. So the workers keep working, like the big holes up in Frisco, for instance. And then all of a sudden, the money just stops, and you are still working because you don't get paid for 30 or 60 days, right? So now you're continuing to incur debt, of real-time debt with employees and IRS and all that sort of thing. And then you find out after the fact that there is no more money. It's really scary. It just happened. Well, no, that was a different deal. I won't talk about it.
So in that case, you have the ability to then file a lien against the property, but the only way you can collect on a lien is if the property then sells or gets refinanced.
That's right.
So that could be years.
Or never.
Or never.
Right, or never.
Wow.
Yeah. So in the state of California, for instance, everyone liens the job up front. Before you ever even go to work, everybody sends the notice and everybody says, I'm out here, this is my contract, and I'm owed this money. You have to, you practically have to be a lawyer to be in construction because there's a lot to consider. There's a lot of things that you have to know to do. And in Texas, there are certain deadlines. You have to file by the 15th day of the second month if you are a first-tier subcontractor. If you're a second-tier subcontractor, like I'm a sub, so if I hire a sub, then they have to file by the 15th day of the first month, I think it is. So the rules change all the time, and the rules change if it's public or if it's private. And other states just don't have it like that. It's much more clear-cut. Yeah.
I know whenever anybody does any construction, before you can get, in my world where I'm dealing with office buildings mainly, if my tenant is responsible for the construction job, before they can get reimbursed by the landlord for the improvements allowance, they have to prove up that they've paid the subs and everybody else. And so you have to sign off on a lien waiver before you get paid, really. So, it's all messed up. But anyway, well, thank you so much for being our guest today. We've really enjoyed it.
Carmen.
Thank you, I did too.
For our guests, please go to our listeners, go to NTD Mechanical to learn more. And if you want to know more about the show, go to nextlevelshow.com.
Spread the word. Have a great week.